Logan Paul officially joins the Vision on WWE Raw 2025 after betraying CM Punk last week. You know what makes me absolutely sick? Watching someone who claims to love this business, who swears they respect the tradition, turn around and sell their soul for a paycheck and a spot in the most manufactured, corporate faction we've seen in years. Logan Paul didn't just betray CM Punk last week, he betrayed every single person who actually believed he was different. He betrayed you. And the worst part? WWE is acting like this is some genius storytelling when it's the most predictable, paint-by-numbers garbage they could have possibly done. But here's what they're not telling you about why this happened, and trust me, when you hear the real reason behind Logan's decision, you're going to lose your mind. Let's rewind to last Monday night on Raw. CM Punk, the man who literally changed the wrestling business forever, the guy who walked away because he had principles, is standing in that ring cutting a promo about legacy and authenticity. And who comes out? Logan Paul. The YouTuber turned boxer turned part-time wrestler who's been telling everyone for months that he's here to prove himself, that he's not just a celebrity looking for attention, that he genuinely loves professional wrestling. Punk extends his hand, a sign of respect, a moment that could have elevated Logan in ways no title ever could. And what does Logan do? He looks at that hand, smirks, and delivers the most cowardly, disgusting blindside attack we've seen this year. Super kick, brass knuckles, the whole playbook of someone who knows they can't beat you straight up. But it gets worse. Because as Punk is laid out, whose music hits? The Vision. Drew McIntyre walks out with that smug look on his face, followed by the rest of this corporate assembly line of a faction, and they welcome Logan Paul with open arms. The confetti falls. The pyro goes off. And WWE expects us to cheer for this manufactured moment like it's something special, like we haven't seen this exact storyline 15 times before. New guy comes in, acts like he's honorable, betrays the veteran, joins the heel faction. It's wrestling booking 101. Except this time it's worse because Logan Paul isn't even a full-time wrestler. Here's a question for you, and I want you to really think about this before you answer in the comments. When was the last time WWE did a faction betrayal angle that actually felt surprising? Not just shocking for shock value, but genuinely surprising and well-built? Drop your answer below because I'm genuinely curious if anyone can remember one. Now let's talk about the Vision, because this is where things get really insulting. WWE has been pushing this group as the future of the company, right? Drew McIntyre as the leader, surrounded by hand-picked talent that management believes represents the next generation. They've been telling us for weeks that the Vision is about elevating wrestling, about bringing prestige back to the business, about creating a new standard. And their big recruitment? A part-timer who wrestles maybe 4 times a year. A guy who has a podcast and energy drink to promote. Someone who will never put in the work that the full-time roster puts in day after day, week after week. How is that the vision for wrestling's future? Think about the message this sends. You've got guys in the back who've been grinding on the independent scene for 15 years, working their way up through NXT, finally making it to the main roster, and they're watching a YouTuber who started wrestling 3 years ago get handed a spot in the company's top faction. Not because he paid his dues, not because he earned respect from his peers, but because he brings mainstream attention and social media followers. That's the real vision here. It's not about wrestling, it's about clicks, views, and trending topics. It's about WWE desperately trying to stay relevant in a world where attention spans last 3 seconds. And here's what really burns me up: Logan Paul is actually good in the ring. I'll give him that credit because it's true. For someone with his limited experience, his matches at WrestleMania and Crown Jewel have been genuinely impressive. He's athletic, he's willing to take risks, and he clearly studies the craft. That's not the issue. The issue is that being good in the ring used to be the baseline requirement. Now it's treated like this special bonus feature. Oh wow, the celebrity can actually work, isn't that amazing? Meanwhile, incredible wrestlers who could have 5-star matches in their sleep can't get on television because they don't have a million Instagram followers. Let me ask you something else, and be honest in the comments. Do you think Logan Paul would have ever gotten this opportunity if he didn't have his social media following? If he was just a regular person who walked into a WWE tryout with the same athletic ability but zero fame, would he be in the Vision right now? Would he have even made it past developmental? But let's get back to CM Punk, because his reaction to this is going to be nuclear. This is a man who walked away from WWE at the height of his career because he refused to compromise his values. He spent years in the wilderness, went to AEW, burned that bridge too because, agree with him or not, Punk doesn't play politics. He came back to WWE last year, and everyone assumed it was just for the money, just for one last run. But Punk has been different this time. He's been putting over younger talent. He's been working with people backstage. He's been trying to be the veteran leader that the locker room needs. And this is how he gets repaid? By being used as a stepping stone for Logan Paul's ego trip? The promo Punk is going to cut this Monday is going to be absolutely legendary. You know it. I know it. WWE knows it. And that's probably half the reason they did this angle in the first place. They need Punk's genuine fire to make this storyline feel important, because without him, it's just another forgettable faction expansion. Punk is going to talk about respect, about paying dues, about what it means to actually be a wrestler and not just play one when it's convenient. He's going to tear into Logan about commitment, about priorities, about the difference between loving wrestling and loving the attention wrestling brings. And every word is going to be true, which is why it's going to hit so hard. Here's what WWE is banking on: they're hoping the heat from this angle is so intense that people forget to ask the obvious questions. Like, why does the Vision even need Logan Paul? What does he bring to the faction strategically? Drew McIntyre is already the muscle. They've got technical wrestlers, high flyers, talkers. What specific role does Logan fill besides guy with followers? The answer is nothing. He fills no actual role in the group's dynamics. He's there to make headlines. That's it. That's the whole strategy. And you know what the saddest part is? It's going to work. This video is going to get thousands of comments arguing about whether Logan deserves the spot. Social media is going to be on fire for the next week. Wrestling websites are going to write dozens of articles analyzing every aspect of the angle. Logan's podcast is going to get millions of downloads when he talks about his journey in wrestling. Mainstream sports outlets are going to cover it because Logan's name draws eyes. WWE gets exactly what they want: attention and controversy. Meanwhile, the actual craft of professional wrestling gets pushed further into the background. Quick question for the old school fans out there: can you imagine if someone like Ric Flair or Bret Hart had tried pulling this part-time schedule while being featured in main event angles? Drop your thoughts below, because I'd love to hear from people who've been watching for decades. But let's talk about what happens next, because that's what really matters. The Vision now has Logan Paul. Cool. What's the endgame? Is Logan going to be around for the weekly TV grind? Is he going to work house shows? Is he going to be there for pay-per-views that don't have WrestleMania in the name? Because here's the reality: Logan is going to show up for the big moments, cut some promos, maybe work a match at a premium live event, and then disappear for months while he focuses on his other projects. And the Vision is going to have to work around this massive gap in their lineup, pretending like their newest member actually matters. This is the exact same problem WWE had with Brock Lesnar for years. You can't build consistent storylines around people who aren't consistently there. And before you say, but Brock was a draw, yes, he was, but that doesn't mean the booking wasn't frustrating for everyone else involved. How many times did we see tag partners or faction members standing around awkwardly because their special attraction teammate wasn't on the show? How many feuds lost momentum because they had to pause for weeks waiting for the part-timer to come back? It's lazy, short-term booking that prioritizes moments over storytelling. And CM Punk is going to be the one pointing this all out. That's what makes him so dangerous to WWE's narrative. Punk doesn't play the game. He's going to call out the hypocrisy directly. He's going to ask why Logan gets a pass for being part-time when other wrestlers get criticized for it. He's going to question why the Vision claims to be about the future of wrestling when they just recruited someone who represents everything wrong with modern WWE: celebrity worship over substance, social media metrics over in-ring ability, flash over fundamentals. The match we're inevitably building toward, Punk vs. Logan at WrestleMania or whatever premium live event they choose, is going to be incredible from a storyline perspective. Because it's not just about revenge. It's about two completely different philosophies of what wrestling should be. Punk represents the purist view that wrestling is an art form that demands respect, dedication, and sacrifice. Logan represents the modern view that wrestling is entertainment, and if you can entertain, the traditional rules don't apply. Both perspectives have merit, but they're fundamentally incompatible. Here's a thought experiment for you all, and I really want to see your answers on this one. If you had to choose, would you rather have a wrestling company full of Logan Pauls, talented part-timers who bring mainstream attention, or CM Punk's, full-time dedicated wrestlers who live and breathe the business? There's no wrong answer, but your response says a lot about what you value in wrestling. What makes me furious about this whole situation is that WWE had so many other options. If the Vision needed a new member, there are dozens of incredible wrestlers on the roster who could have filled that spot and benefited from the elevation. Imagine if they'd picked someone from NXT who's been waiting for their main roster opportunity. Imagine the storyline possibilities of an underdog getting recruited by the company's top faction. Instead, they went with the easy, predictable, publicity stunt choice. It's insulting to everyone who's worked their entire lives for a fraction of the opportunities Logan gets handed to him. And let's be crystal clear about something: this isn't about Logan Paul as a person. By all accounts, he's professional, he works hard in his matches, and he's respectful backstage. This is about WWE's priorities and what they signal to the audience. When you consistently give the spotlight to people who aren't fully committed to wrestling, you're telling your hardcore fanbase that their passion doesn't matter as much as casual mainstream attention. You're telling the wrestlers in your locker room that years of dedication matter less than social media followers. The Vision was supposed to be different. Drew McIntyre positioned them as a group that was going to bring honor back to wrestling, that was going to show what true excellence looks like. And their first major move is recruiting a part-timer? It completely undermines everything they claim to stand for. Unless, and here's where it gets interesting, unless this is all part of a bigger story about the Vision being hypocrites. Maybe that's the angle. Maybe WWE is actually being smart here in setting up the Vision to be exposed as frauds who talk about prestige but really just want power and attention. If that's the case, then I'll give them credit for some actually complex storytelling, but I doubt it. WWE's track record with faction storylines over the past decade has been pretty hit or miss. They start strong with interesting concepts, but then they either break up the group too quickly or drag it out too long without clear direction. The Vision has potential because Drew is phenomenal as a leader, but adding Logan Paul feels like they're already reaching for shortcuts instead of letting the story develop naturally. What was your reaction when you first saw Logan attack Punk and join the Vision? Were you shocked, excited, angry, disappointed? Let me know in the comments because I'm genuinely curious how this played with different types of fans. Now, let's talk about the match quality we can expect from the eventual Punk vs. Logan showdown. Like I said earlier, Logan is legitimately talented in the ring. His match against Roman Reigns was better than it had any right to be. His WrestleMania matches have been memorable. So from a pure in-ring perspective, we're probably going to get something really good. Logan can go, and Punk, even at this stage of his career, is still one of the best workers in the business when he's motivated. And trust me, Punk is going to be motivated for this one. The story writes itself. The veteran who sacrificed everything for wrestling versus the influencer who treats it like another content opportunity. The full-timer versus the part-timer. The purist versus the crossover star. It's a dream feud for modern wrestling because it taps into real tensions that exist in the industry. Fans have genuine strong opinions about what Logan Paul represents, and those opinions are split pretty evenly. Some people love that he brings new eyes to wrestling. Others resent that he gets opportunities that lifelong wrestlers never receive. Both sides are passionate, which makes for incredible engagement. But here's my concern: WWE is going to book this feud with Logan as a cocky heel who thinks he's better than everyone, and Punk as the righteous veteran fighting for wrestling's soul. And at the end, what happens? Does Punk win clean and Logan disappears for 6 months? Does Logan win with the Vision's help to build more heat? Does it end in some screwy finish that sets up a rematch? None of those options feel satisfying because they all ignore the fundamental issue: Logan isn't going to be around consistently enough to pay off whatever story they tell. This is the trap of part-timer booking. You can build incredible heat, you can have an amazing match, but then what? The part-timer leaves, the full-timer moves on to a different feud, and all that emotion and investment just evaporates. It's wrestling cotton candy, tastes great for a moment but leaves you with nothing substantial. Compare that to classic feuds where both wrestlers were on TV every week, where the story built layer by layer, where every interaction mattered because it was building to something bigger. That's how you create memorable wrestling moments that people talk about for decades. Quick question: what's your favorite wrestling feud of all time, and were both wrestlers involved full-time during that feud? Really think about it and drop your answer below. The thing that frustrates me most about modern WWE is that they know how to tell great stories. We've seen it. The Bloodline saga over the past few years has been absolutely masterful storytelling because everyone involved has been consistently present and the story has been allowed to breathe and develop. Cody's journey to the championship was compelling because they committed to it fully. When WWE focuses on long-term, character-driven storytelling with their full-time roster, they're the best wrestling company in the world. But then they do stuff like this, bringing in Logan Paul for sporadic appearances and expecting us to care as much as we do about the people we see every single week. And look, I get the business side of it. Logan Paul appearing on Raw is going to spike viewership numbers. His matches are going to draw casual fans who might not otherwise watch. He's going to generate social media buzz that translates to mainstream coverage. From a pure business perspective, featuring Logan makes sense. But wrestling is supposed to be more than just business. It's supposed to be about competition, about storytelling, about characters we invest in because we see them struggle and grow. How can we invest in Logan Paul as a character when we only see him once every few months? The Vision itself is going to suffer from this. They're going to cut promos talking about how Logan Paul makes them stronger, more complete, more unstoppable. But then he won't be there for weeks at a time. They'll have to awkwardly explain his absence or just ignore it entirely. Other factions will have to pretend like the Vision isn't missing a member. It creates this weird cognitive dissonance where the story WWE is telling on screen doesn't match reality, and they're hoping we just don't notice or care. CM Punk is going to notice. Punk is going to care. And he's going to make sure everyone else notices and cares too. That's what makes him such a valuable performer. He forces WWE to actually deal with the uncomfortable questions that they'd rather ignore. Why does Logan get special treatment? What makes him worthy of bypassing the traditional path? If the Vision is supposed to represent wrestling's future, why does that future look like a return to the celebrity-obsessed attitude era rather than an evolution forward? These are the conversations that need to happen in the storyline for it to feel authentic. If WWE just glosses over these issues and treats the angle like a straightforward betrayal story, it's going to ring hollow. But if they lean into the controversy, if they let Punk voice all these legitimate criticisms and make the Vision actually defend their choice, then we might get something special. The question is whether WWE has the courage to tell that story or if they're just going to play it safe. What do you think WWE should do with this angle? Should they address the part-time issue directly in the story, or should they just ignore it and focus on the personal rivalry? I'm genuinely torn on this, so I'd love to hear what you all think. Here's another layer to consider: how does this affect Drew McIntyre's character? Drew has been positioned as this proud Scottish warrior who demands respect and excellence. He's been critical of people who don't take wrestling seriously. He's been all about honor and proving himself as the absolute best. So why would his faction recruit Logan Paul? What does that say about Drew's character and principles? Either Drew is a hypocrite who only cares about those values when it's convenient, or the Vision's whole philosophy is a lie meant to manipulate people. Either way, it's interesting character development if WWE actually explores it. My prediction is that they won't. They'll just have Drew cut a promo about how Logan Paul proved himself worthy through his actions, how attacking CM Punk showed he has the killer instinct the Vision needs, blah blah blah. It'll be surface-level justification that doesn't actually address any of the deeper character questions. And that's a shame, because wrestling is at its best when character actions have logical motivations that create moral complexity. The absolute worst-case scenario is that this whole angle is just about getting Logan Paul heat so that eventually a babyface, probably not Punk, maybe someone like Cody or whoever WWE wants to push next, can beat him and get a big victory. That would reduce CM Punk to just a plot device to set up Logan's eventual comeuppance, which would be disrespectful to one of the greatest wrestlers of this generation. Punk deserves to be the one who gets the payoff for this story. He deserves to be the one standing tall. But WWE has a history of using their veteran stars to put over newer or more marketable talent, so I wouldn't be surprised. Last question, and this is the big one: do you think Logan Paul being in the Vision helps or hurts the faction overall? Is he an asset that elevates everyone, or is he a liability that undermines their credibility? Sound off in the comments, because this might be the most divisive question of all. Look, at the end of the day, we're all going to watch this play out. We're going to tune in every Monday to see what happens next. We're going to argue about it online, make predictions, and get emotionally invested despite our better judgment. That's what wrestling does to us. It hooks us with compelling characters and stories that tap into real emotions. And this Logan Paul joining the Vision angle, as much as I've criticized it, is going to be compelling television because the underlying tensions are real and the emotions are genuine. I just hope WWE doesn't waste this opportunity. They have all the pieces for an incredible story about tradition versus evolution, about earning your place versus being given opportunities, about what it truly means to be a wrestler in the modern era. CM Punk versus Logan Paul isn't just a match, it's a philosophical debate about the future of this industry. And whichever side WWE ultimately validates is going to send a message about what they value and where they see wrestling going. So yeah, Logan Paul has officially joined the Vision after that disgusting betrayal of CM Punk. The wrestling world is divided. The story is just beginning. And I cannot wait to see what happens next, even if I'm angry about how we got here.